Hello, I'm Terry Hartley with Rustic Barn Cards. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Welcome. If this is your first time visiting, please hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell so you'll be notified when I upload videos, which is usually Monday and Thursday. Today we're going to make a card. It's going to be a card in autumn for the fall. And I was looking through our new August through December mini catalog. And if you have a catalog, if you look on page 56, if you don't have a catalog, reach out to me. I'll be glad to send you one. But this card right here gave me an idea. So I'm going to kind of case the card from this card, but it will be a little bit different. I'm using different designer paper. So let me show you the card that we're going to make today. So this is the card, Always Grateful. So I use Cinnamon Cider designer paper. But the card that we're going to make right now, the base card, instead of being Cinnamon Cider, I'm going to make it Bumble Bee. So this is the materials that we're going to need. And if you look below the video, you'll see the description, and there's two words, show more. And if you click on that, you will find the dimensions for the card that we're going to make today. And I also will have it at the end of the video. So we're going to need a sheet of cardstock Bumble Bee, 5.5 by 8.5, and we'll fold that in half for our card. And then we'll need a sheet of, I have a 6x6 designer series paper, and I am using the 2020-2022 in color. So 6x6 designer paper, and these are all the in colors that we have. And then you just need a scrap of Bumble Bee, and we are going to use a die from the Celebration Label dies, and our stamp set that we're going to be using today is Celebration Tidings, and we're going to use these two stamps and the greeting Always Grateful. And this stamp set does come with the Celebration Label dies if you buy it as a bundle. Remember, if you purchase from my store, you can purchase the bundle, the dies, and the stamp set for 10% savings. And this is the dies, except for, of course, for the one I've already taken out that I'm going to use today. So I will be using, I'll be cutting out using that die, and then I also need kind of a scrap paper, or cardstock rather, a Bumble Bee, probably not this large, but it's what I had. And I'm going to be doing some stamping, and then I'll be fussy cutting out the pumpkins because I do not have a die for that. And then I will need some Whisper White cardstock for the sentiment. And then I'm going to need some Cinnamon Cider ribbon. And I'm using two inks today, Memento Black and Cinnamon Cider. And I will be using a few Stampin' Blends. You could also use markers that we sell in our store if you have color pencils. So I'm going to be using light and dark of Pumpkin Pie, light and dark of Old Olive, and Crumb Cake, although I will just be using one, either the light or the dark will work just fine. Okay, let's get started with the card. I've already folded the Bumble Bee in half, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to just lay that right here. Bring in our 6x6 designer paper, and I need to cut this at 4 by 5 1/4. And so to save time, I have already done that, and this is going to be our layer. So we're going to go ahead and glue that and put our layer on our cardstock. And we'll get this straight. Okay, I'm going to lay this aside. Then I'm going to bring in our die. I'm going to lay this upside down, and then I'm going to run this through the Big Shot. I'll be right back. Okay, and I have our label cut. I am going to use my grid paper, kind of line this up. So that straight line. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my stamps. I have the sentiment, always grateful. And I have the other stamps on the art blocks ready to go. And I'm going to be stamping the with Memento Black, except for the greeting. The greeting will be, so I'm going to move that. For my luck, I would be using it for the Memento. Okay, so I'm going to ink up the little leaves and the two pumpkins. And then I'm going to put that about right here. All right. And then while I have this stamp set, I'm going to go ahead and do it 2 more times on my scrap of paper. And 1 more time. There we go. I'm going to clean my stamp, lay this aside, and then I want to bring in, I guess I'm not quite finished with this. I'm going to bring it back because we are going to stamp down here, and this is the stamp that we're going to use. And I'm having a little bit of a problem trying to get these lines straight. This one on the right sometimes wants to. So I'm going to use my grid paper to try to line it up and use the lines. Okay. And still, it looks like, on my grid paper, it looks like it is lined up, but then when I look at it, it doesn't. So we will try it. So we'll go ahead and ink it up using the Memento Black. We want to leave some space because we're going to add pumpkins and the sentiment. And so I'm trying to do even pressure all the way across, hang on to it, and straight up. And it still is a little crooked there, and I thought it looked like it. But you know what we can do? We can just turn that over, and we will try to, I think when you do, maybe we'll just start over is what we'll do. Okay, let's try that. Okay, I'm going to line this up on the, and we will try this again. I know I've had trouble with that one stamp. Perfect. Then we're going to bring this one in again. It looks like it is lined up now. And maybe it's just me, so now I have it upside down, but it'll probably be straight. Not exactly. Well, luckily, I do have one already colored and everything. So let me go ahead and bring in our sentiment, lay that aside, and put the black Memento away, and bring in the cinnamon cider. Wake up always grateful. Perfect. I'll close this before I get my fingers in it. Lay this aside. So when you go to color, okay, so when I go to color, I'm going to use the Old Olive. I'm going to use the bullet. And on the leaves, there's some lines there, so I'm going to trace over those with the dark. And while that's kind of drying, I'm going to bring in the light pumpkin pie, and then I'm just going to add some little color. And do that down here too. And then I'm going to bring in the light Old Olive to do the leaves. And that gives kind of a nice contrast against the dark shading. The crumb cake for the top of the pumpkins. And then I'm going to bring in the dark pumpkin pie, kind of go over the lines. And then, of course, I also want to, on these, I only need to do just the pumpkins because we're not going to use any of the leaves or anything. So we just need some more. And then I'll bring in the light pumpkin pie, and I will go ahead and finish coloring the pumpkins. Okay, and I do have one of these finished, so let me bring that in. Okay, I have this one finished, and then you would color the others, and you would just, on the pumpkins, and then you would just go ahead and fussy cut and cut those out, which I have already done. So I'll bring those in right here. And then we are going to put dimensionals and pop them up on our label. And I'm going to overlap. So I'm going to overlap this one over this, kind of overlap them a little bit and bring them down so you can still see these two pumpkins. Okay, so let me turn this over and add dimensionals. I think I'm going to need, no, I'm going to need a small one over here. So I probably should have used. And I'm going to turn this over. Then I'll go ahead and use a large one on the, if there's enough room. Take off the backings. All right, and I want to overlap, but I want to make sure. And the tricky part is to get it kind of like, to get it straight. Or, it's a tricky part for me anyway, it seems like. Okay, and I'll place this one right here. And seems like that wants to stay with us. Okay, let me put it up so I can make sure it's straight. And I think it is. Perfect. So we have those popped up. And let's bring in our sentiment to put right here. And we're going to pop that up. And we are going to use the large dimensionals. So we'll use one in each end and then one on the middle. Take the backings off. Okay. And then I'm going to put the edge of this right along here. Okay, just like that. And now I am going to bring in our card base. But before I add our label onto here, I want to bring in some ribbon. So bring in some ribbon and move those out of the way. Okay, so I actually use about 16 inches of the cinnamon cider ribbon. There is a way you could use less, which I will show you, but I'm going to go ahead and place the ribbon kind of just down here, and I'm going to kind of bring it up about right there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put a little glue right there. Yeah, there we go. Let's see, it was working to hold it. So then I'm going to bring it up here, and then I'm going to loop it over and hold that loop and bring it down even with the bottom one. Okay, and I'm going to kind of hold it, and I'm going to add just a little bit of glue. Okay, and then down here I'm going to make a loop. So hold my finger down here, see, like that, and then hold it here, and then bring it straight up, and then take my scissors, and that was my ruler that you just heard, and clip it up there. And now I'm going to adhere this piece here. So I'm going to kind of hold it. And maybe there we go. Okay. Now I'm going to bring this in, and I will be gluing that right on here, and then you'll have the little loop up here and the loop down here, and then the ones that are straight. So you just have just a touch of the ribbon showing. So instead of using all of this, when you're really only going to the only thing that's going to show is at the top and the bottom, you could actually cut the ribbon and just put it a straight piece and fold it over and do the same up here, and then you would have about all this ribbon in here you could save. So that is a way to save your ribbon. Okay, I'm going to turn this over. Remember, that's where we made a mistake. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to use the snail glue. And then I want to place this and make sure I have about the same amount of space at the top and the bottom. And our card is completed. So we started with the one I showed you. We were using cinnamon cider for our card base, and we made Bumble Bee for our card base. So I don't know which one that you like the best, the cinnamon cider or the Bumble Bee. You can let me know in the comments below. Also, let me show you the other two cards. So I took cinnamon cider and folded the card base in half, and I just stamped and the two images, colored them, and then added our sentiment, always grateful. So here I used stamp, paper, and ink and made always grateful. And then the next card, I stepped it up a little bit. And again, I used some cider for the card base. And then I added a layer of Bumble Bee. But I just stamped the images. Didn't add any extra pumpkins. And then I put the sentiment in the middle. And I did use a little bit of cinnamon cider ribbon, tied a bow, and placed it at the bottom. And then the card we made today, we stepped it up even more because we added not only designer series paper as our layer, we also added ribbon, and we popped up some extra pumpkins, and we popped up the always grateful, which we also did on the second card. So you're going kind of from, stamp, ink, and paper, stepped it up a notch, and then we added more on the third card. And again, let me know which one that you like the best. If you want to contact me, go to terryhartleystampingup.net. And if you place an order of $50 or more, make sure you use the host code for the month of August. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.